My name is Mandisa Ngomane, and I work for a global logistics company, which is called, can I name the company?
Yeah.
Okay, so I work for Transitex Global Logistics, and mostly on the export department, and basically doing documentation.
So before we get into what that actual stuff is that you do there, did you study in maritime at all to get the qualification, or did you end up just finding a job there?
I did study. I also went to DUT in Durban, and I did shore-based, which is the business side.
So you got the nautical side, which is you get quite a lot of that shipping experience.
Going into sea. And then the shore base is mostly business, your offices, your shipping lines. So, yeah.
So it's like everything to do with once the ships come in, basically all the logistics, the transport side, that kind of...
documentation.
Huge amounts of documentation.
Huge amounts, start to finish, both imports and exports.
Just page after page of documents and documents.
You. Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes, it is.
So, but now at school, what happened at school?
School.
You didn't do maritime
No, I didn't. Okay. I went to Adams College. Went to Adams College, did my matric there. So after matric, I was really sort of undecided of what I really wanted to do, because I think I liked a lot of things at that time, but I obviously couldn't do all of them.
Yeah.
I was also mostly fascinated by forensics. So at that time, I think there was a show called Medical Detectives.
Yeah.
I used to be glued like onto the screen. So I think I was more interested in that.
Okay.
And then I went to DUT, basically...
They have a forensics...
Not really forensics, but it's called biomedical technology.
That's the one, yeah.
Yes. So you do that for 2 years, and then you can obviously steps by steps, and then you eventually get to the forensics side of it. So I went there, and then at the time that I applied, it was already late, so they couldn't take me. All right, so I've got a cousin as well who works for Transnet, and then she was like, there's a thing called Maritime Studies. Would you be interested? And then that's where I started. Oh, Maritime Studies. And then she told me about the nautical side, going into sea and that sort of stuff. But I was like, oh, but I'm too young and I don't want to leave my family, And then she said, no, just go, because you're already at DUT. So how about you go to the campus and just go check? And then when I got there, there was a lady, very helpful, very friendly, called Ashna. And then she explained to me that you can actually, go on the business side of things and work at an office or a shipping line. So you don't really necessarily have to go into sea. So I think I got more interested when she said that. And then when, she looked at my documents, my matric certificate, obviously I meet the requirements. So I started applying from there.
Oh, nice. Do you think, I get this, I get the family thing. I get that if you're going on like long sea journeys and that kind of stuff, that's quite a hectic thing to do.
Yes.
Do you think there's a gender thing attached there? Do you think that female students would feel that pressure more than male students, or not necessarily?
No, I honestly do think you'd feel the pressure, because for me, it was a thing of a lot of my family members, like it was sort of like I would say a generational curse maybe. They don't have matric, so this is my chance. I passed my matric with flying colors. So now if I go into sea, how is that going to look like? So I think my practical sort of look into things wasn't really the practical side, because obviously I didn't know that time, but I was looking into, okay, so I'm going to go away. I'm going to leave my grandmother. I'm going to leave my family. It's going to be a thing of just sending money. And, I'm not physically there to monitor the situation. So I think my worry was coming from that, and not knowing how long I'd be gone for.
I understand that. Have you noticed, like when you're at DUT, was there a difference between the shore-based and the nautical side, gender-wise? Do men tend to go nautical, and the
Definitely.
woman, is there
Yes.
tendency?
Yes, there was.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to look at that in more detail to see. So okay, so now you land up Unite DUT.
Yes.
You were doing forensics. You were going to be cutting up, checking out bodies, and all that kind of stuff. Now you land up in this maritime side. And how did you find it at DUT?
I found it very interesting because when you started off, I didn't think that it would be, because I remember there was like marine maths, there was like marine science. So I thought it would specifically be more like onto the people that go onto sea, compared to, you know, people that are
the logistics of the whole thing.
The logistics of the whole thing. So I found it very interesting, and it's something that I could sort of relate to, because, you know, it's not far off from what we had in school, apart from all the other subjects like introduction to marine law. That's like more in depth. But when it comes to like the science side of it or the math side to it, it's more like what you already did in school.
So when you're doing like, so this is, and we're staying in the maritime economics side with maritime law, you tend to do a little bit of that, but you do a whole lot of stuff there. You do some stuff to do with going off on to sea.
Yes.
So it's not just
because I remember there was a time when we would have discussions about how we feel like we're doing more of the stuff that are meant for people that are going into sea.
Nautical.
Yes. Yeah. Even though we're not really going to utilize, you know, that sort of information or experience.
And looking back, do you think it was important to have that side of it now? Or do you think that they should specialize it more?
I think they should specialize it more. I'm not saying like the whole thing entirely is not, you know, relative, because some of it does like connect, you know, in a sense. But I think cut down on some, definitely yes.
I think we're going to get there, because I think we're going to find out that as you're doing your job now, you started to get insight that you don't need the nautical side to do what you're doing, basically, I think, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So you do your degree, or is it a national diploma?
National diploma.
So you do your national diploma. Do you have to do extra years kind of experience?
Yes, you also have to get your work integrated learning, of which I did that with a shipping line, Hamburg Sud shipping line.
International?
Yes.
And how did you get into them? Because I mean, the way I understand it is that final work integrated learning thing is quite difficult to get into. So
okay, so it took me quite some time actually to find, you know, a company, and I remember a friend of mine had sent me a message, and then she's like, okay, this company is looking for students like to, you know, for work integrated learning, and I was like, okay, sure, let me send them an email to them. Okay. Also, we still had that agreement that the school is gonna look for work for you.
Yeah.
So while I waited for that, I'm like, okay, fine, let me, you know, no harm in doing this. And then I apply. And then I think a week or two down the line, they call me, they're like, okay, we're interested, so come for an interview. Okay, I go there, and interview went well. They're like, okay, fine, we'll call you on Monday.
Jeez!
You know? I remember there was like the three of us there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2 boys and just 1 girl. And then a white lady, she's like, okay, we'll call you on Monday. See you then. Okay? Monday morning, I remember 8 o'clock, my grandmother was like praying. She literally just go on fast.
Oh,
right?
Really?
Yeah. So, okay, they call me. They're like, can you come in tomorrow? And I'm like, tomorrow, not next week, not like...
Yeah, like now.
Yeah. And then, okay, I go in the next day. So initially, I was supposed to do like the export documentation side of it. And then the lady's like, but you... Because I remember it was just that one day. And after that one day, she was like, you seem like you're interested, like you're eager to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like just doing exports is not going to be good enough. So how about you do both imports and exports?
How long did it take her to say that? One day?
Yeah, one day. After that one day.
Because you were showing interest,
I was eager.
enthusiasm.
Yeah, because I feel like the first day, it was like calm. So introductions, okay, here's Mandisa, she's here to do this. And my manager had instructed my colleagues to give me work and try to show me what's happening.
Yeah.
So they were not giving me any work, they were just continuing.
Yeah.
I think it was also a thing of, I'd rather do it myself because I know I'm going to do it perfectly.
For sure.
You know?
For sure. That's a problem with work integrated learning. Is
that's the thing.
You've got to take on someone and you don't know how good they are.
Yeah, so I'm seeing that, okay, hours are going past, I'm not really doing anything. And then I'm like, what do I do? You know, there was a guy called Jabulo that was sitting next to me by the counter, and he's like, I think you need to do something because you're not going to sit like this. If you sit like this today, you're going to sit like this for the rest of the day.
Exactly.
You know, so I'm like, okay, no, fine. I tell my manager, they're not giving me any work, and I've asked them a couple of times. And then she's like, okay, fine. Takes me there, tells them you need to give Mandisa some sort of work, you know, because that's the only way you're going to see her capabilities. Okay, fine. And then I think another hour went past, and then there's a lady in the export department. She comes to me. So meanwhile, I'm waiting for them. I'm doing like counter duties. Yeah. So yeah, we're getting bills in, getting bills out, you know, documents, signing off, transferring calls and all that. So, okay, the lady gives me something to do. I remember it was a shipping instruction. So you get a shipping instruction either from like agents, you know, clearing and forwarding agents, or you get it directly from the shippers.
Okay.
So basically an instruction that you need to capture on the system for you to actually generate a bill of lading. Okay. So she gives me a shipping instruction, and I think the tricky part was that you need to actually use the system. So it's my first day.
You've got to learn the actual specifics of that system.
Yes. So she sits with me, she shows me how to do one, right? So you get two different types of shipping instructions. You get an electronic one and you get a manual one. Okay. And she gave me like an electronic one, not too complex. So, okay, fine. She shows me how to do it once, right? And then she's like, okay, if you get stuck, let me know. I take the shipping instruction, get onto the system. I do it. Whenever I have hiccups, you know, I ask her and stuff like that. And then I generate a bill by myself, you know, and I send it to her, and I'm like, can I send it to the customer? Because you still need to send like a draft bill to the customer for them to check if everything is in order. Yeah. And then she checks, she comes to me, she's like, there's no errors here. How did you do this? And I'm like, because I was asking the entire time. So I wasn't really doing anything that I'm not sure of, because I'm learning. And that's the thing with learning, that if you don't understand something, you must ask. Okay, so I think that's when she saw, well, this girl is not here to play, you know? And yeah, that's where it started off. And she also told my manager.
Was there any danger of jealousy at that point? Because isn't there this kind of story where on the one side, you're a bit scared to do that kind of stuff because you could show up the people that you're working with?
That's the thing. Like, I think they also sort of intimidated, even though they don't really know what you're capable of doing, you know. But I think we worked well as a team. Eventually, it was okay. And I think the company was sort of like a structure whereby if export department needs to have 5 people, then there needs to be 5 people. You can't get an additional person just because the person does the work, you know, properly. Okay. So I think that's where maybe the jealousy would come in, that if this one performs better than me, you know, so I'm not safe.
There's a risk.
Yeah.
I think there is that kind of, that can happen, but you avoided that.
Yes.
And on top of that, you avoided the issue of like just sitting quietly in a corner when you arrived there and no one giving you any work and then just sitting there and being...
what was I going to take back? Because that's the whole point.
Very, very... Okay, so now you're actually doing work. They're giving you extra work to do.
Yes. I'm doing both imports and export now. So I'm at the counter doing everything. Capturing bills. If a person gives me bills, capture bills. So the next step now is invoicing now the customer. That gets really complex now because you really need to be diligent, you know.
Because it's money that's involved now.
It's money that's involved.
Money, time.
Need to ensure
you've got to make sure it's the right specifications.
Yes, it's the right customer as well that you're billing, because there might be a Transitex Global Logistics, but there might be like 4 accounts. So you must make sure it's the right account. So, you know, it just needs you to be there, and your mind to be there, and be extra careful.
Now you're paying attention to all of this, like paperwork and filing, kind of, and keeping track.
Yes,
and keeping
making
track of,
notes.
Is there do you have interactions with the clients as well, or is it really more office-based, paper-based kind of side of it?
I was interacting with the customers at that time, because remember, with the draft bills, when you send the customers draft bills, they'd come back and say, oh, I approve the draft bill, or I would like to make changes or amendments to the bill. So that back and forth is between yourself and the customer.
Okay.
And also with the invoice, they can either come back and dispute it or pay. And then when they pay, you also now just dealing with another team, which is finance. So it's like...
So you get to know each other. And
yes.
Do you get to trust each other? Does it?
Yes,
do
you form a relationship.
Okay.
Definitely, you form a relationship.
So now you're doing that. Where are you now? What's happening now?
There's a lot happening. I am juggling everything by myself, you know. And when my colleagues are bringing in work, I can't say no, I'm busy. You know, I need to prioritize now. It's a thing of prioritizing. When is this vessel arriving? When am I going to have to send these arrival notices? Maybe like 5 or 7 days before the vessel arrives. And then I know maybe I still have an extra day, so let me park this on the side and do this. That's urgent.
Do you work with any kind of planners, or any kind of, you know, you get these kind of workflow plans and that kind of stuff, or are you just doing it kind of manually and keeping track yourself? You don't work with any automated kind of workflow setup, or do you?
No, there was some like automated workflow within the system now, because remember, the system is generated in a sense that it works to the best of your ability in terms of the tasks or duties that you do on a daily basis. So it wasn't more of like manual work, you know. It was just that the volume of work was quite high.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now here you are. What would the next step up be if you had to get a promotion?
I'd say like a senior level. So you get like an exports. Okay. So I'm learning now. Yeah. So the next level would be to either be an imports documentation specialist or be an export documentation specialist. Okay. Okay. And the level up would be a senior imports or export documentation specialist. And then.
And what would the difference be? How would what
the
would you
duties? There's no much difference really. It's basically the same duties, just different. How can I name it? Just different destinations that you guys are doing. Are you
doing more work, or are you doing work which is more expensive or more complex, or are you involved managing more people?
Okay, I think the only difference is that obviously these people below you, if you're a senior, they report to you. Yeah. So you can't just go to maybe like a key manager. You have to go through the senior person. And also the fact that the senior person does some reports that we really wouldn't do. You know, like overall in terms of money going out, like on a daily basis, money coming in, those sort of stuff.
So they're keeping a higher level view of basically how the...
in terms of reporting. Yeah. Yeah. And also with the imports documentation specialist, she was also doing cargo claims. So that was like a bit more complex. Okay. Yeah. So that was the difference.
Oh, nice, nice. Well done on getting you to this far.
Thank you so much.
And what I really like to hear, just to say it, is that you took some real kind of steps forward rather than just sitting in the... Because it's so risky when you do this work integrated learning, or where you go into these phases where you can just, you can just drift inside of it and not take control. Yes. So it's Good to
And
know.
also, like, you're learning, so you don't want to step on anybody's toes, you know?
And that can make you kind of keep back.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.